Have you ever had that moment where you look around at your life talking about the bills, the traffic, the stress, and thought, what if I just left? What if you could trade it all in for a simpler, more affordable life in a tropical paradise? But then the question hits you: is it safe? How do I get a visa? What about all my stuff, my furniture, my clothes? Today I'm sitting down with Monte. He has built an incredible business helping people navigate the confusing journey of becoming an expat. Some people might be saying, hey, what is an expat? So whether you're looking for us specifically at Merida, Mexico, or just dreaming of living somewhere else, Monty answers the hard questions and gives us the blueprint to making that move a reality. So let's get into it. Hello again, and welcome to the Higher Ground Financial Freedom Podcast, the Freedom Podcast where we talk about faith, family, finances, and fitness. And we just bring interesting individuals on here that want to make the world a better place. And today I have Monte Rayner. And Monte, for the individuals that don't know you, the listeners and viewers, go ahead and share with brother about who you are and tell everybody what ultimately led you to want to move to Merida, Mexico.
Oh man, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. I'm Monty Rayner. I am a Georgia resident or former Georgia resident. I grew up in Atlanta, spent 30 something years there, went to middle school, high school, college, met my wife at Spelman. So we are ATL through and through.
Mm.
6 years ago, however, we made the change to move to Merida, Mexico. And what led me to this change, or what led us to this change, was really our story really started many, many years ago when my wife studied abroad at Georgia State. She did a degree in economics and minored in Spanish, had the
Mm.
opportunity to study abroad in Guadalajara with and live with a Mexican family. And what was special about that opportunity was our three older kids, we have four kids, our three adult kids were able to travel with her during that study abroad program. She
Oh,
was an
wow.
adult going to school. So they spent the summer with her, living with this Mexican family that showed us nothing but love. They were an older couple who had
Okay.
kids. They actually had kids a little bit older than us, actually. And we were their first family that they ever hosted. My family was, and that bond that they built and the love that they showed us really solidified our love for Mexico. And so every summer for probably until the kids really to their senior year probably we took them back to Mexico and they spent time learning Spanish. My wife spent time in Guadalajara, so we originally thought we were going to move to Guadalajara because that's where our Mexican family lives. As they say in The Blind Side, that's where my family is. Right.
No, no, that's cool.
Yeah, but we ended up moving to Merida, Mexico, after discovering this place.
No, man, that's cool. So why, out of all the places, like you said, Guadalajara, hopefully I pronounced that right.
Mhm.
But why Merida? Why specifically out of all the places you could have chosen, why Merida?
Yeah, I feel like Merida was we didn't choose Merida, Merida chose us.
I
And
like
I'll
that.
explain that. So we came here on a church mission trip. So our church said that they were going to do a mission trip in Mexico, and one of the places that they were going to go to, or the place that we were going to be based out of, was Merida. And we had traveled to Merida 23 years ago on a Carnival cruise ship and
Mm.
didn't think anything of it at that time. We thought, it was a cool day, a cool excursion. In fact, I thought Merida was actually on the coast. I didn't realize it was 25 minutes away, right? So I didn't know that there was another city called Progreso where the cruises dock, and then they bus you into the city of Merida.
So is that
But
that
we
Porto
did that.
Progreso?
It is, yes,
Oh,
that's the
okay,
Port of
okay,
Progreso.
okay.
Yep. And so we did a Carnival cruise. It was our very first cruise with the kids. They were all still, this is our older kids. They were all still really young. And it was the first cruise that they were able to take and kind of go to the kids program and that kind of thing. So we spent the day in Merida, and then fast forward, 20 something years or 18 years later, our church is like, we're going to do a mission trip in Merida or in the Yucatan. It was actually in a place called Dizentune. And so we decided to join that mission trip because we had plans to move to Mexico, and we were exploring different places at that time, whether it was, Guadalajara was kind of A1 on our list.
Mm-hmm.
But we thought about Panama and Dominican and some, Dominican Republic and some other places. But once we got to Merida, we were, pleasantly surprised with all the services, how it had all of the things that Guadalajara had that we liked in terms of, you know, uh, services like at home, like in the States. And the weather was perfect. It's near Cancun, so it was a little closer than Guadalajara. And so, this became A1 on the list of places to visit. But the number one thing was safety.
Mm.
The fact that it was a safe place. And at that time, we had decided to have our little one who's here with us now. And we really wanted a place that was family friendly and we could raise her. So
And,
that's why we
and how
ended
old
up
is
in
your
Merida.
youngest child right now?
She's 9, so she's
9.
been here
Okay.
2/3 of her life.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
6 years. Yeah, you did say 6 years.
yeah, yeah.
Man, that's a long time. And then you said safety. So why the business? And let's talk about your business right now. I appreciate you sharing about your
Sure.
family. So let's transition over to the business. You've taken this whole experience and you've turned it into a business. So let's talk
Hmm.
about that. Why the whole expat
Yes.
experience and what is the name of your business called? And let's talk about that.
Yeah. So my business is Exit Plans. That's the brand, and from that, I have a couple of different things that I do from a business perspective. One is consulting, so one-on-one coaching. I started the business. I started Exit Plans because I wanted to show people that you didn't have to be, 65, retired to make a move or live abroad, right? So that was really it. Was to show our people that you didn't
Right.
have to be 65 and retired, because most people work their entire lives and decide that, one day, hey, I'm going to go and travel abroad or live abroad. And so we
Right.
knew that by the time we got to our 40s, our older kids would all be in college or going to college or graduating from college or kind of in that adult stage of life. And so
Mm-hmm.
we decided late to have another child, but it was really, early on. I mean, when we were in our 20s, didn't have anything, that we started dreaming about living abroad and just really thinking about traveling abroad, not necessarily living, but traveling abroad once our kids
Right.
were older. And so the business, when I started the business, I really started it as a process of documenting everything about this lifestyle, like how to get your visa, how to make this transition, how to become legal here, all the things that you need to do in order to have a successful transition from the United States into Mexico. And as a part of going through that, going through each of those steps, right? How to build credit, how to open a bank account, all the things that you're going to need to do. I decided to put all of that. I think it was probably year 2 that we here that I decided to put all of that into a course. And so I came out with the Creating Your Exit Plans course, which was the curriculum that I use now for my coaching business for people that want to move to Mexico.
Very nice. Now, is that affordable? I mean, let's say talk about price on that. What does that look
Mhm.
like?
Yeah, so the course, I've discontinued the course in its format because it needed to be updated. And
Okay.
so the course actually consists of like 65 videos that were independent of anything that I ever put on YouTube. Um, right now I started my YouTube channel in August of 2020, I believe it was, during the pandemic.
Okay.
And since that time, I have over 400 videos that I've made,
Wow.
with free resources, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
of how to make this transition. So literally everything under the sun, from you're thinking about moving to you're actually here. The reason I created the course was because there's a lot of just information out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has an opinion, everybody has information, but you don't necessarily know what's right. And
Okay.
so I created the course to kind of put it, okay, if you're thinking about moving, 2 years from now, what do you need to do? What are each of the steps that you need to do? So the course actually had a timeline based on when you were planning to move,
Okay.
and the things that you need to consider along the way. And that timeline went from 18 months before you were planning to move to 6 months after. So it covered a 2-year time span of, okay, what does this actually look like to make a successful transition?
And that's nice. And I mean,
So
that's
yeah.
important because transitioning from the United States of America or from any country to another country, there's already this level of fear there. that
Hmm.
people already experience, and for you to take your time to put something like that in the course. So you're saying now that people can actually go to YouTube and see a lot of free information that you have there?
Yeah, right now the catalog is over 400 videos on
Mm,
YouTube, but I still offer in place of the courses a lot of that curriculum, the things that like you want to know specifically about healthcare. You and I spoke about a lot of
mm-hmm.
different topics, but I have the course had deep dives into everything you need to know about healthcare,
Right.
everything you need to know about the technologies you bring, everything you need to know about insurance, everything you need to know about each individual topic. So while you can find a lot of information on YouTube, the content or the format of YouTube videos is really I need to keep your attention. I need to give you some information, but it's not as concise as what would be in a course or with a coaching. So in place of the course, I offer coaching, and that's at $150 for an hour.
Oh man, that's good. That's good because I mean
Yeah,
it's resources. When you make these big decisions, resources are paramount. You need resources. You need
absolutely.
people, and I will say, and I'll talk about that at the end of this. Availability, being able to get access to people. With everything you have going on, I definitely want to speak to um, how available you have been. Whenever we reach out and talk to you. So
Yeah.
so let's talk about challenges. And
Yes, sir.
I wanted to wait for the challenges because I want to talk about personal challenges with your family and then the professional challenges on the business side of the house. So let's back up and go back to the family. Okay,
Okay.
challenges with the family moving. Were there any, and what were they, and how you overcame those?
Well, the people that moved, it was my wife, myself, and my daughter, who was 3 at the time. And it's funny because I'm actually writing a kind of a video. I'm creating a video on things that happen over the 6 years that I didn't expect in year one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was writing that today. But as far as challenges, I think we anticipated a lot of them. There's just some things you will never know until you're here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the process. And I think, just being open to growth. So, one of the videos I made a long time ago, I talked about the fact that, for the last 2.5 years, I've been in a growth season, right? This was years ago, but
Mm-hmm.
everything was challenging. When I first moved here, I didn't necessarily speak Spanish. I thought I did. I took a bunch of Spanish in high school. I'm 51 years old. So that Spanish didn't necessarily translate 30 something years later, right? Because I didn't use it. And so
Right.
I thought I spoke Spanish. I could ask where the bathroom was, or I need to order another beer or whatever, but it wasn't necessarily what I needed to do day to day life here. And so one of the things I did was I set out to learn Spanish, and I took intensive immersion classes, which is 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I did that for
Wow.
about 16 weeks over the
Wow.
course of 2.5 years.
Wow.
So, that's a lot of cramming, right? But it's important that the switch or the before speaking Spanish or before reading and understanding, you're illiterate
Mm-hmm.
and you can't speak, right? So it's a double-edged sword. Imagine not being able to speak English in the US
Right.
or read English in the US, right? And so everything that you look for, you're kind of recognizing things by shapes and colors, more or less, right? If you want to find the laundromat or the dry cleaners, you need to look for the little hanger with the clothes on it,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and it's the
Wow.
same thing when you move to a country where you don't necessarily speak the language. You're kind of identifying things by what looks familiar. I can't tell you the number of times I drove by stuff and I'm like, I wonder what they do there. And then you learn that word or you learn whatever it is, and it's like, that's where I go for a seamstress, or that's where I go for alterations, or whatever the situation may be. So it makes a huge difference. It's almost like every time I was learning something, I was unlocking parts of this level of this world that were just I'd walk by and I didn't pay attention to it, or it was just a puzzle to me.
It was
So
closed. It was closed off to you at the time.
exactly,
I mean, not until you
exactly.
leaned in and 16 weeks, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
not continuous. It was,
okay.
I might do 3 weeks here. I did 2 weeks there, and then I would take some time off. But And I will tell you that that's probably been one of the things that I regret the most of the 6 years is not just thugging it out and staying with it.
Hmm.
So I hit a point where I felt like I was okay,
Okay.
and I plateaued. Right, I plateaued at being able to speak and talk in the past tense and the present tense, and I was like, that's good enough. But then it became a situation where I really needed to be able to communicate over the phone. I needed to be able to communicate, um, you know, desires and fears and things of that nature, right? And it's like, okay, now you have to be more sophisticated with your conversation. And so I plateaued here.
Right.
And I stayed there for probably a year and a half before I started advancing again. And it wasn't until I started taking classes again that my grammar and my ability to comprehend and read and speak improved.
Wow, man, that's powerful. Because information is powerful. And let me back up for a second. You said 51 because I've been wondering, bruh, what did it say? Black don't crack, man. 51. Okay, because
Yes,
you kept
sir.
saying
51
adult
in about
kids.
2 weeks.
Yeah, you kept
Yes,
saying
sir.
adult kids, and I'm like, okay, this dude like he's 30 years old.
I
Um,
appreciate
but
that.
okay, 51. I'm gonna believe you. But yeah, man,
Yeah,
you 51. You looking real
I
good, brother.
appreciate that. Yeah, man. I will definitely say that I feel like I got years added back to my life moving
Hmm.
here. So my lifestyle is much more healthier than it was back in the States. For
Okay.
instance, one of the beautiful things about Merida, and people complain about the heat, but it is sunny 98% of the time, maybe even 99% of the time. Like I can count on one hand the mornings that I wake up and it's raining or cloudy. And so that is a blessing, right? Knowing that every morning you can get up and exercise, run, walk, whatever it is you need to do. That's a
Right.
huge blessing.
It
Um,
is.
and so that's become a part of my lifestyle now. It's like uh, running or walking or doing some type of physical activity every day, or at least 5 days a week is part of the lifestyle, which was not part of my lifestyle back in Atlanta. It's like, oh, you got to go to a gym, you got to sign up for CrossFit or whatever it was. It
Hmm.
was just a little bit tougher. Then you get in your car to drive to those places,
No, no,
as
that
opposed to
makes
just
sense.
walking, right?
That makes sense because I've
Hmm.
seen a lot of your videos where you have this one camera and you're walking and it looks like someone's actually behind you now,
Yes.
which is paramount. That is very, very nice to see what you're seeing, from your
Yeah.
point of view. So, and it does look sunny out there.
It
So
almost every morning. There's a very, I mean, it's rare when we wake up and it's raining. It's like, oh, it's raining. It's kind of unusual. So,
mhm.
unless there's a tropical storm somewhere, it's very rare that you wake up to rain.
Oh man,
It'll
thank
rain in
you.
the evenings during the rainy season. It rains in the evenings all the time, but in the
Hmm.
morning, it's almost every morning it's sunny.
Very nice, man. That's like you said. That's a beautiful thing to be able to get out there and just get some of that vitamin D, that fresh air, and that
Absolutely.
moisture, putting that moisture right back into your skin. I think that is something that people talk about, that moisture that's in the air that helps with just that natural beauty of people's skin. You know.
Yeah, you definitely get the humidity here for sure.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
Now
for
let's
sure.
transition over to business side of the house.
Hmm.
Struggles or challenges with the business. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
So I would say that when we first got here, I started. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've been very fortunate to um, have a lot of success early on in life, so that I could kind of focus on. I like to say I bought my time back right early
Hmm.
on,
Right. Right.
so I could focus on different things. And the first venture that I set out to do is digital marketing. I used to own a franchise back in the States, and I did all of my digital marketing. So, paid search and social, and got really adept at doing that. So I
Hmm.
started doing that for other small businesses back in the States. And so I started an agency that would do, paid search and social for small, like really small companies, one man companies, two man companies, up to, 20-man companies or what have you. And the idea was I know that as being an entrepreneur, having a small business with employees, it's hard to find anybody to help you at your budget level. And then it was also difficult to do it yourself, right? Because that's a whole nother skill level that you had to learn. So since I had that, I leveraged that skill level to be able to help other small businesses. Well, here we fast forward to the pandemic, right? So 6, 7 months into that pandemic, and the first thing that people cut is their marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing I would have done. And so I pivoted, and that's when I started doing the YouTube channel. And it really didn't start the YouTube channel as, a revenue source, but as it grew, I started seeing a particular problem that people wanted to solve. And
Mm-hmm.
luckily, my background, which is cybersecurity, that's what I did in my previous corporate career, was perfect for that. So not only do I have the coaching, but I also have a cybersecurity side of the business where I help people figure out how to keep working remotely while working remotely from anywhere in the world while traveling or doing whatever they want to do. And so that part of the business really came from YouTube. And a big part of that was being able to leverage the skill set that I already had. So that was that allowed me to differentiate from what I have. Because here's the thing, most people that move here think that they're experts. 30 days in, they could advise you on
Mm-hmm.
how to move to Mexico. So the field is really crowded. Everybody has coaching, everybody has some type of thing, PDF or whatever they're doing to sell to help you move here. But very few people have actually, been here for any amount of time to really help you through what does year 2 look like? What does year 3 look like? People are just like, hey, I've been here, I've done it, I can help the next person. And so I needed to differentiate my skills from or my services from other people. And part of that was solving this problem of how do you work remotely and still, maintain your location privacy. And so that's the main problem I help folks solve.
Oh man, I love that. Love the serial entrepreneur. Love that you know how to pivot. Love that you seek out problems and then you say, okay, let me go ahead and fix this problem. So
Mhm.
great mindset, great concept. You definitely have that growth mindset. That's what attracted me to coming to you and talking to you. Just with some general questions. And then where do you see? Is it you said Mexipat?
Exit plans.
Mexipat. So where do you see that headed in the next couple of years?
Yeah. So just even I'll give you the next year of that, right? So AI has really taken off since I created that course. What 2.5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
AI has taken off. It wasn't available, right? So even when I moved in 2019, the way I found information was going to every Facebook group about this subject, every local Facebook group about Merida, every local Facebook group about Guadalajara, and just reading comment after comment, opinion after opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and really just scraping the web, right, and watching video after video. So of what was available out there. And it's all from different perspectives. And so everybody's lifestyle isn't the same. And that's where, the perspective changes, right? So, for instance, we had businesses back home. We owned our home. We had things going on back in the States. So when we moved here, it was a little different for us than someone that needs to come here and continue to work and things of that nature. So it was very, very different. And the point that I'm trying to make is AI has revolutionized how we collect information or how we can
Mm-hmm.
collect information. And so one of the things I'm working on right now is taking all of that knowledge base that I put together and creating it in such a way that it's easily accessible via AI.
Awesome. Awesome. And then what platform? You're gonna be using chat, Google?
That's a good question. Probably Chat GPT will be the interface with the new agent stuff that they have available. That'll
Okay.
probably be the interface to what I do. My course platform is a platform called Thinkific, and
Say that
Thinkific
again.
is actually
Thinkific.
Thinkific,
Ah,
T
okay.
I H Thinkific.
Okay.
Thinkific is the platform,
Like
and it's like a Kajabi or there's a million other online course platforms, but that's where I built the course. They're
mm,
actually adding the ability of adding AI at some point. I don't know that I'll wait for what they do, but I have this repository of of uh, curated information that I think would be very useful to have in a Mexa Plans AI. What would Monte do? Ask the AI. What do I need to do about healthcare? What do I need to know about
mm.
insurance? What do I need to know about? And it would give
So
you
you're gonna
that
take all
information
that
based
data
on
from
time.
that course and plug it in there, and then they can just start asking those questions,
That's
And
right.
man, smart, smart. Yeah, you
Yeah.
you definitely have the mindset to take advantage
Yeah.
of this whole AI system that we have been blessed with. You know, that's
Yeah,
awesome,
the
man.
biggest, the biggest challenge with AI is that there's hallucinations, right?
Hmm.
But if you have a curated system and a knowledge base, then you know that that information is coming directly from your knowledge base. It makes
Right,
it a little better. So,
right, right, right. Okay, so now the big question.
mhm.
I know people are going to be watching this. They're going to be saying, okay, people thinking about moving to Mexico, but they're unsure if this is the right move. Before contacting you, what do they need to do? What steps would you give them?
I mean, you can contact me when it's just a a thought, right? When you first think of the idea and you want to know what does this look like. I think the biggest challenge that we have in US is all the propaganda. And you don't realize that what you've been told about, like I'll give you an example. And this is for your listeners. When was the last time you heard a positive story about Mexico?
Mm,
Right?
wow.
You don't ever hear anything positive about what's happening here. It's all negative. It's all cartel, which I think of the cartel as like the boogeyman in most folks' mind, because they think you're going to run into the cartel or you're going to meet the
Hmm.
cartel. It's like it couldn't be further from the truth. There are some places where drug violence um, is rampant, but so is it in the United States, right? Any inner
Hmm.
city in the United States, and you have the same issues. You have drug violence and random things. Um, the place that we live in, Merida, is the second safest city in North America, and people don't believe that when you tell it. But it's hard to really express how safe it is here. But things like um, somebody stealing a bike makes the news, right? That
Hmm.
that like makes the news. That is major news. You don't hear about shootings or random violence or any of those types of things. So as soon as people want to know what it's really like to live in Mexico, and not all of Mexico is equal. Merida is definitely special, but if you're interested in what that process looks like, what the transition looks like, how to make a successful transition, reach out.
Okay. And then, so people that want to reach out or follow your work or, starting their own transition, where do they go? And I'm definitely going to post this. So whatever you
Sure.
talk about, where do they go to
Yeah.
contact you?
As I said, there are over 400 videos on YouTube. Now, you're not going to watch all 400, right? Many of those are from 4 years ago or 5 years ago, but that's a great place to start to kind of get a feel for some of the things that you'll have to uh, encounter, or some of the things that you will encounter. Things you should be thinking about. The one of the differences in my channel is I try to focus it on particular challenges or problems. So, for instance, plumbing here is very different than plumbing is in the United States, right? What does that look like when you go to rent a house? Well, how do you know you have good plumbing, bad plumbing? What should you be concerned with? The bug situation here is very different than it is in most places that aren't tropical, right?
Hmm.
If you're from the Northeast, you may have never seen a tarantula. Or a scorpion.
Right.
Those are things you have to be concerned with. But there's pesticides just like there is back home. You just spray for those things, and it keeps them at bay. But my channel tries to focus on solving the everyday challenges of moving to Mexico, and not just moving here, but living in Mexico. What do you need to know? How do you get your tags? How do you accomplish your visa process? How do you get insurance? Do you need insurance? What is
Hmm.
healthcare like here? Right? What is it like to go to a doctor? Those are all very things. In fact, one of the big differences is healthcare, right? Most people think that the US has the best healthcare system in the world, and you'd be hard pressed to find someone that would say, nope, that's not the case. However, once you experience healthcare outside of the US, you realize it's broken.
Hmm.
Your doctor spends 15 minutes with you and he's out, he's on to the next. Whereas here, my doctor will come to my house and she'll spend 2 hours with me if I need her
Right.
to explain whatever it is. It's just a big difference.
Right. And I think it's all about understanding the whole ecosystem of the world. That when
Hmm.
you stay in one place, and if you've only traveled 100, 200 miles outside of where you were born, well, your point of view is going to be very small. Nothing wrong with that. Okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
But when you've traveled, let's say I'm a 32-year veteran, and you've seen different parts of the world, and you're sitting in different places, and you hear the news saying horrible things about this place, and you're like, hey, I'm right here. I don't see that,
Yeah.
and you get an opportunity to see that we are much more connected than we are disconnected. And you
Absolutely.
start seeing that the world is not as bad as, and every country is going to do it. Every country is going to take it and make it seem like their country is the best country. And that's what they should do, because they want taxpayers, they want people paying money to take care of their system, to take care of the structure, the roads, or whatever have you. But when you get out and go travel and you have an opportunity, it's a trade-off. If it's a trade-off, different places in Mexico, different places, Spain, wherever, England, you look at our country. I love our country. I love it. However, when you start thinking about things like, how many briefings do you have to tell your kids when they go to school about school shootings? Are they having school shooting briefings in Mexico? So you have to look at the big. There's going to be trade-offs for everything. Trade-offs.
Absolutely.
So if you're thinking about this, and I said I was going to get to this. If you're thinking about moving to Mexico or just considering somewhere else, I will say, start with this man right here. I was going to say young man. He's an older brother, but still looks like he's in his 30s. But start with him, because you're talking about transparency. You're talking about someone that's available, that will get back with you within, let's say, a couple minutes, an hour, whatever, but that will get back with you, will answer all your questions. Get on Facebook. And like I said, I'm going to post these things on here. But start with this gentleman right here, because he's going to answer your questions. Okay, his time is precious, so he's going to charge you to talk to you, but he will actually go over that time. And then when you start hitting with these secondary questions and follow-on questions, he's just throwing knowledge at you. And it's not a lot of money. For what you get, the information that he provides, it is pennies, okay? I would have charged a lot more for what he's providing. So definitely talk with Monte. Go to Facebook, go to YouTube, okay? Get this knowledge, because what he does, like any serial entrepreneur, he goes and seeks out problems. So he'll find a problem, and then he'll give you the solution to the problem. That's what good entrepreneurs do. They find a problem, and they will give you solutions. And I found that 99% of his solutions are spot on. Okay, so definitely seek that out. So Monte, getting ready to close here, brother. What do you want people to take away from who you are, your family, your business, whatever have you? What do you want them to take away from that, from this whole conversation?
Sure. Yeah, I will say that one, it's possible to live if you have a passport. If you don't have a passport, get one, right? And that should be
Mm-hmm.
your next move. Figure out how to get a passport. If you can get a passport and you have the ability to earn a living in the States, consider looking at, expanding your horizons and living abroad. It is not all the bad things that you've been told. It is a lot of positives in terms of the food, the healthcare, the climate, the cost of living, things of that nature. So, you know, I just want to be an example for other people, other families, to see that it's possible for you to have a life outside of the U.S. and still, thrive, right? To have community, to expand your horizons, to grow as an individual and speak two languages, things of that nature. So for me, it's just about being an example. I have tons of free resources on my YouTube channel to kind of show you what that looks like. And if you choose to, take it a step further and you want to get to the heart of a matter, then I offer consulting for you as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that feedback. And
Yes,
take
sir.
it. Take the consulting. And if nothing else, just talk to the young man and see what he has to say. Okay. Again, it's not that expensive. He's not trying to break anybody's pockets, especially once I saw how much he charges. I'm like, this is it, especially when I compare it to the information that he provided, because I wanted to see what he was talking about before I brought him on the show. So again, reach out to him. And again, it's going to be links for that. Well, Monte, I appreciate your time, brother. Appreciate your
No, thank you
transparency.
for having me.
Appreciate you bringing things on. And with that being said, let's continue to get that financial freedom. And for all you serial entrepreneurs, talk to this young man as well about that, because he is all over the place, in a good place, but all over the place with linking things together. So thank you, brother, for your time, and God bless.
Absolutely. Thank you. God bless you as well.
All right, take care.